And our movie for today is Melinda, starring Calvin Lockhart and Vanetta McGee. This one came out in 1972 and put out by MGM. And I have to tell you, folks, this is another wonderful, beautiful Blaxploitation movie to me. I thought it was just very enjoyable, and I highly encourage you all, if you haven't seen it, to go out and watch it. The premise in a nutshell is Calvin Lockhart plays this radio DJ who romances a new lady played by Vanetta McGee. But when she gets killed in his apartment, he has to try clearing his name. So that's kind of the movie in a nutshell. And so who do you have in it? Well, you got the wonderful Calvin Lockhart playing Frankie J. Parker, a almost overly confident to the point of arrogance, the radio DJ, and just a lot of confidence, a lot of swag. In fact, let me show you this scene that pretty much exemplifies his character. So check this one out.
I hate to say this, but I am such a pretty motherfucker. Yeah.
So that scene right there is pretty much how he is throughout the whole movie. And really almost how Calvin Lockhart is in all of his Blaxploitation movies. Man, I love that dude. So that is Frankie J, or Calvin Lockhart playing Frankie J. Parker. Next, you have the lovely and beautiful Vanetta McGee playing the title character Melinda, who turns out isn't even her real name. But every time I see her, I just love her, man. She was in Detroit 9000. She was in, I think it was Shaft in Africa, Blackula. She was in Thomasine and Bushrod with Max Julian. So Vanetta McGee, man, just wonderful. And it's a tragedy she died at such a young age. I think she died of cancer when she was either in her late 50s or early 60s. So, but again, what we did get from her, I just love watching Vanetta McGee, man. I think she is gorgeous. Right. You have the always feisty and fiery Rosalind Cash playing a character named Terry Davis, who is sort of the on again, off again girlfriend of Frankie J. Parker. I mean, they have like some conflict and some beef, but ultimately, because of her love for him, she really wanted to come into his rescue and saving him towards the end of the movie. And then the other main character was Rodney Tarkington, who you may know from Black Samson fame. He played this Frankie J's friend Tank, who seemed like he was close friend, but also seemed like he was he did some stuff to sell Frankie J out. And the thing I the thing I realized after watching this movie is I am so glad I saw Black Samson, which Rodney Tarkington was in, before I saw Melinda, because his character Tank was almost like a flunky for the man who was trying to take Frankie J out. And just because of I didn't like that character, had I saw Black Samson after seeing Melinda, I probably would have been tainted by the character Rodney Tarkington played here and wouldn't have appreciated Black Samson as much. So glad I saw it first before seeing this, because I just didn't like his character here. Loved him in Black Samson. But those were your main characters. And then there's a few others who had smaller roles that I know you know one for sure. The other you may not, but the one you know for sure, Jim Kelly, martial artist Jim Kelly, who was in the movie as he owned a karate school. He was Frankie J's close buddy and taught Frankie J karate. And towards the end, Jim Kelly and crew wound up coming to Frankie J's rescue. Now, this was Jim Kelly's first on-screen movie role, and you can kind of tell, because it was always said about Jim Kelly that he was never really a great actor. He kind of got better over the course of time, but his charisma allowed him to kind of lead movies on his own. But as an actor, he just really lacked acting chops, and it is evidence in this movie. I mean, you could tell he was just almost like so formulaic in delivering the lines that you could see he was very raw and just starting out type of deal. But glad he kind of found his niche to his swag that would lead him to lead his own movies. And then and matter of fact, I don't know if because Jim Kelly was in here, this movie, that found a second poster of the movie, which you could see on there. It has like a thrill-packed drama with kung fu excitement. And I have to tell you, folks, the kung fu excitement, it was like a very small window towards the end of the movie. So uh, uh, it's not a lot of kung fu in there. So I don't know where they decided that. And again, I love this particular poster better because, like right there, where it says your kind of black film. Um, I don't know what they meant by that. I don't know if it meant like because of the positive aspect, just the it wasn't your typical pimp um, pusher trope that Blaxploitation and people that most people think Blaxploitation is about. So it was just a good caper drama type of movie. So I really enjoyed it. Think you should check it out as well, and I'll tell you some more about it. But the other person that I said, you may not know this name or this face, but this is Judy Ann Elder. Now, you're like, who is Judy Ann Elder? When I was looking at this movie and I kept looking at her, I was like, she looks familiar. And I couldn't put a finger on it. And turns out she didn't do much any other Blaxploitation movies. But who this is if you remember the sitcom Martin with Martin Lawrence in the 90s, Martin's girlfriend, later wife, Gina, played by Tisha Campbell, Judy Ann Elder played Gina's mom, Mrs. Waters. And so that's why when I was looking at her, I was like, she looks familiar, but I don't know from where. So this is just the younger version of her. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, couple other people I don't have pictures of who were in the movie is Lonnie Elder playing a character known as Lieutenant Daniels. And why that's significant is Lonnie Elder actually did the screenplay. He wrote the movie. And not only did he write Melinda, he wrote Sounder. He did the screenplay for Busted Loose for Richard Pryor and a play that's very well known in the Black community, Ceremonies in Dark Old Men. He wrote that. So that's pretty cool. And if you're wondering, hey, was he related to Judy Ann Elder? They were married. He was like about 21 years older than her, but they were married for several years. Other people in this movie is Jeannie Bell, who is the lead from TNT Jackson, a Blaxploitation movie we'll cover at some point. But when I saw her in the credits, I was like, oh, cool, TNT Jackson's in this movie. But her role is very small. I don't even think she speaks, so it's very small. And then there's another guy, Rennie Roker, who did a couple of other Blaxploitation movies. He was in Brothers with Bernie Casey and Ron O'Neal. And then he did two other little known Blaxploitation movies, Deliver Us from Evil and Johnny Tough. So those were kind of like major characters or the main actors throughout this movie. The top four: Calvin Lockhart, Vanetta McGee, Rosalind Cash, Rodney Tarkington. And again, one of the other things I really loved about this is the connection. I'll show you that in a moment. But if I had to give you an overview of it, Frankie J, cool DJ, you saw the arrogance, the swag about him, but he is on the radio, doing his thing, and then cut scene, you get Vanetta McGee coming in town. And what happens is later on, they meet at this club. And that's one of the things I really enjoyed about the movie is you could see the chemistry between Vanetta and Calvin Lockhart throughout this movie. And so here's one of the scenes where when they meet at the club.
Next thing you gotta get hip to is Frankie J. Parker, all-pro joy of the universe.
Is there anything you haven't been or done?
I haven't made love to you.
Yes, you have. In your dreams.
So just really cool chemistry between the two of them throughout. So what happens is when they meet at the club, they go to this party thrown by his man Tank, Rodney Tarkington. And that's where we get the dynamic between Frankie J and Terry. So I guess at that point they were kind of broken up because you could tell she's still not over him. She kind of is looking at him with disdain because he's coming in with Melinda. And they even have a conversation at one point at the party where he's just like, look, you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. So that's their thing. And so from there, Frankie and Melinda hook up and they kick it for a while, and she's even spending time at his crib. And what happens is she gets killed at his crib. But obviously the police think that he's done it. So they bring him in, arrest him, question him and all that. And while he's getting questioned by police, Tank sends lawyers to get him off. So this is why you think, hey, that's why you think that Tank is Frankie's boy. And while he's being arrested and questioned and all this stuff, and these lawyers get him off, he finds out that Melinda's name isn't even Melinda. Her real name is like Audrey Miller. Yes, Audrey Miller. Okay. So then when Frankie's out, what happens is, he's trying to figure out what's going on, who did this. He gets set up by this junkie chick. And when he finds out she sets them up, he kind of extracts from her who sent her. So he goes to pay these folks a visit. While he's out paying them a visit, Terry comes looking for him. And, when she finds him, he realizes that he can't go back to his crib because police and the hoods are looking for him. So he goes and shacks up and hides out at Terry's place. They hang out at her place. Once he leaves there, though, one of the hoods, the people who killed Melinda / Audrey, sends them after Frankie J. He beats down this hood named Smith, who was played by Rennie Roker. And that hood goes to see Tank. And that's when we find out that Tank is kind of like a flunky for the man, because you can kind of get the sense there that he sold Frankie J out. Okay. Because of that, Frankie J shows up at Tank's crib, kicks his butt. And that's when he finds out that, Melinda was killed because she took something belonging to this guy named Mitch. And they think that Frankie J has it, whatever it was. Well, he gets hold of this safe deposit box, a bank safe deposit box. And, but unfortunately, he can't get in there because, it's under Melinda's name or Audrey's name, what have you. And so this is where we find out how ride or die Terry is, because she pretends to be Audrey. She goes to the bank pretending to be Audrey. And I'm going to share this scene where Rosalind Cash just kind of goes off. This is just, I love this scene as well. So let's peep this. Mm-hmm.
I don't give a damn if she never comes back. Now, look, I'm getting sick and tired of this. Now, I walk in here and you treat me like I'm some damn cook.
Miss Miller, what's wrong?
What's wrong? What's wrong? My ass. You know what's wrong. Look, if I was a white woman and I walked in here and wanted to get into my bank deposit box, I wouldn't have to go through half this shit. Hey, shush, shush, my ass, bitch. Now, look, I want my fucking property or I'm burn this bank down.
Don't mess with Terry. Okay. So yeah, she goes, gets the stuff out of the safety deposit box or whatever, and it turns out it's a cigarette case. And in the cigarette case, there's like evidence of this guy Mitch, who Melinda stole it from, setting someone up to be killed. So she kind of had this evidence that Mitch, I guess, found out she had it, and that's why she was killed, because they were trying to get it back from her. So once Frankie has this information, he reaches out to Mitch to say, hey, I got your property. I'll give it back to you, but you're going to meet me on my terms. So he thinks he's kind of got the upper hand. Well, turns out Mitch and crew kidnap Terry and flip the script on him. And thus they're like, nah, we got your girl. So now you're going to meet us on our terms. And so basically they connect. Frankie J takes Mitch's men to go get this cigarette case. And at that point, they're ambushed by Jim Kelly and crew. And so they rough up and take out Mitch's men. And then Frankie J goes back to Mitch's crib, which is where he's holding Terry. They have a kind of like a showdown, and he opens up a can of whoop ass on Mitch, beats him down, rescues Terry, and they ultimately walk off victorious. So that's kind of like how it ends. And again, just the way the movie flowed, man, it's just a good story, good acting. To me, I really enjoyed it, and I thoroughly recommend, if you haven't seen it, go check it out. Or if you haven't seen it in a while, go check it out again. Yeah, good movie. Okay, so and then a couple other things. I told you that Lonnie Elder wrote the screenplay. It was Jim Kelly's first on-screen role, but also this was produced by, it was a NFL player, former NFL player named Purvis Atkins, and directed by a guy named Hugh A. Robertson. Why that's important is because this made this one of few Blaxploitation movies that were actually written, produced, and directed all by Black folk. So again, when people say, hey, Blaxploitation was white people exploiting Black people, here's another, example of that wasn't the case. You had a Black writer, Black producer, and a Black director on this movie. So Melinda, check it out. Thoroughly enjoyed it.